You starting with Tommy Lloyd?
Well, we were very close to figuring.
We had a-
see-
Go past 6:30. We have a quorum. Is Tom on
It's
Zoom?
on Zoom.
Okay. All the members are present, including Tom, who is present via Zoom, and the town manager is here. Let's commence our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is in the back.
Pledge
allegiance to the
flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
which stands
one nation
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does anyone have any business that they would like us to consider that wasn't on the published agenda? Okay. Do any board members have any conflicts with any items on the agenda tonight?
Nope.
Okay, we'll start out. Well, I think we've got a lake presentation. Is that true? All right, the floor is yours.
So much. Do you want me to speak from over here?
You may speak from wherever you're comfortable.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for inviting us to present today. My name is Jennifer Peasnell. I am the Director of Conservation with the Watershed Friends. You may have formerly known us as the Friends of the Cobbossee Watershed. We went through a slight name change last year, just because we had a few other organizations that are also amazing and do amazing work in our watershed that have very similar names to us. So to just differentiate ourselves, we're going by Watershed Friends now. I'm also joined by our Acting Executive Director, Keith Colling, and with supporters from Barry Dexter Wilson Ponds Watershed Association. Thank you so much for being here. And for this year, we are requesting 1,900 from the town of Wayne. It's just a small increase from last year, about 5%. So that is only about $100 more than last year. The reason for that increase, of course, there's inflation and rising costs. The work that we do, we work with preventing, detecting and managing aquatic invasive plant species. There's always some new challenges that occur over the season, and there's also a lot of successes that occur over the season as well. And just to kind of keep this presentation short, just want to tell you a little bit about what we have planned for this coming season, and what we were able to achieve last season as well. So we survey a number of different water bodies throughout the watershed, including Barry Dexter and Wilson Ponds. Those ponds are known to be uninfested. We did a survey in conjunction with the robust volunteer crew with Barry Dexter and Wilson Ponds Watershed Association. And again, last year we did find no aquatic invasive plant species, which is fantastic. And we're hoping to see that again in 2026. So for this to occur, we're planning to hire courtesy boat inspectors. You may be familiar with them in our watershed. They wear the bright yellow shirts at a number of our launches, including on the Wilson Pond public boat launch. We're looking to hire probably over 30 again this coming season. They'll be at Wilson Public Boat Launch on Saturdays and Sundays from 9 a.m. from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekends. We're also planning again to have what we call a roaming plant survey crew. So we have 2 plant survey crews that survey throughout our watershed. One of them is a 6-person crew, our roaming plant survey crew, and one of them is our Cobbossee Lake plant survey crew. Cobbossee Lake has its own team because there are 4 known aquatic invasive plant species as of 2026 on that water body, but there are 5 aquatic invasive plant species that we know of in our watershed going into this season. So we're making sure that we're really keeping an eye on all many of our different water bodies that are heavily used by our public. So this season, we do have a new challenge. We did discover a new aquatic invasive species, water chestnut, in Jug Stream on the Cobbossee side, just south of the Anabessa Cook Lake Dam. So that is another species that we hope we will see eradication with that species. We only found 3 plants and 5 nuts, and we were able to remove them with our plant control crew. Coming into this season, we're adding a plant control crew also to our roaming team, so that if we do detect anything, we'll be able to hopefully get an early jump start with management, whether it's on an uninfested water body or on a known infested water body. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. We foresee a successful season in 2026, but with some of our new costs, with adding that control crew on the roaming team, and just making sure that we're continuing to do robust surveys on Barry Dexter and Wilson ponds, and keeping that courtesy boat inspection coverage there. We're looking for just, again, slight 5% increase from last year. Okay, does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Do you have a deal for us tonight on the lake?
I don't have a report. The
Okay.
working groups are actually working, and I will tell you that the town of Leeds did pass the appropriation that we asked for to help us this year.
Okay, great. So our next item on the agenda is a public hearing on the liquor license renewal application for Yogi Bear's Jellystone Camp. Guys sent you all emails to this, but you might pass them around. Anybody who is here on that particular public hearing, I have a little handout that basically copies the statute sections that indicate the circumstances under which the town may deny a permit renewal application. Anybody want it? No? Okay. Is there a representative from the applicant here by any chance? No? All right, then we will open the hearing. Anyone? Anyone?
Online.
Oh, we have an online
Yep.
person? Okay.
Betsy Clark is raising her hand.
Okay, tell us your name and your comment, please.
Yes, this is Betsy Clark. And so I just want to say, when I was looking through the application, I just understanding that this is for the on-premises application for serving drinks in like a restaurant or their lounge bar situation. And so I am happy to see that in their application on number 19, where they have the hours, I understand that except for Mondays, they will stop serving any of their drinks at 7 p.m. So that is nice to see that there's it's not a late cutoff time period for serving their alcoholic beverages. But I do have a question at the bottom of the application where there are the documents. Now, I don't know if you have other documents that I can't see, that were posted online, but under, I think the last document they have, it says they have a floor plan. They've included a floor plan. My question or concern is that the floor plan that accompanies this on-premises application, that floor plan is to show their retail store that gets submitted with their off-premises application. That's an off-premises diagram that I can see that's posted with the documents online. So I guess the question is, I want to, that retail store, that does not apply to this on-premises application for serving beverages. The off-premises diagram is for where they're selling like a 6-pack of beer or a bottle of wine that people can buy at the retail store and take back to their campsites. Do you have in your packets there, do you have any diagrams showing where on the campground property they are going to be serving their drinks? And the reason why I'm asking this question is when a few years ago, when they submitted an on-premise application, they wanted to include a spot on the beach, on the waterfront of Androscoggin Lake. They wanted to be able to serve alcoholic beverages right there on the beach. And I would like to make sure that that is not in this application.
Our question was, do we have anything else?
Nope, this is all that was included in the application.
Okay. And this is the diagram that was submitted of where they want where they want this license to apply?
Correct.
Looks to me like that's what we're approving.
But so,
They want-
I guess, then,
Do you see anything in here, Betsy, that says they want to serve any place other than, I understand what you're saying.
well,
This may
so,
have been the wrong diagram,
yes,
but it's the one they sent us.
but
It's
so
the one that's in their application.
From the state.
okay, so I
Yeah.
guess my question is, if you do approve this application, then that means that they can only be serving their alcoholic beverages in their retail store. And I don't think that's what they mean. I don't think that's
Well,
what they
they say-
want.
They say they have dining rooms.
They say they have a cafe.
They say they have a cafe and dining rooms and.
Right, but they have not added it to their application as far as we know, so this is not a complete application.
The diagram they're sending you is for where they're selling 6-packs and bottles of wine.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, and
We're-
my biggest concern
Well-
is to make sure that they're not going to be trying to sell alcoholic beverages down at the waterfront.
Now, is there anything that you see in the application, not just you, Betsy, but anybody, that indicates that the premises covered by this application are other than the premises shown on this diagram, which I agree appears to be a mistake on their part? Is there anything anywhere that anybody sees that says they're gonna sell it anyplace else other than this diagram?
I think they encountered us enough flack before.
That's all I'm at. It's a pretty
Yeah.
direct question.
It's got a list of all the documents and it includes 7 different documents. And the last one says
So-
premises floor plan for
So
the,
they've asked us to approve an application to sell on premises beer and wine in the location shown on page 7 of 7.
Well,
That's my
Henry,
understanding.
yeah, Henry,
Is there something else?
yeah, item 25 says how many seats do you have, include indoor and outdoor seating, and it says 60 seats. But it doesn't say where those 60 seats are,
Right,
and I don't see 60 seats in their diagram.
it says documents included premises floor plan, and then it says to the right, store floor plan.
Right.
Yes.
So is there any issue if we just say, can we get some clarification and take this up next week or next meeting?
Or we take
Are we
it,
still in public forum?
we take it that there's no,
Well, yes, we didn't have any comments except for Betsy's here and we're responding to her. So yes, we're still in public hearing. Okay, thank you, Betsy. Any other comments from anyone? And then we'll go into deliberation. Yes.
I would just note, Eric's gonna, I would just note that in their front cover sheet of their application,
Mhm.
it says that this is for, if the premise type is a restaurant,
Mhm.
it can apply, it's not necessarily the retail store that they're applying.
Well, we'll take it up. Any other comments, public comments?
I just think if there's any ambiguity, it should be held until the ambiguity is resolved. Because outdoor seating, then lacking a diagram could be anywhere.
Well, I guess you could look at it that way, Stan. One way to look at it though is this diagram is where their permit's gonna apply,
So,
period, end of the story.
so what you're saying is if we, but
But if we want to ask them to clarify and maybe expand the premises or clarify where they're intended to be, I think that would be fine. And I am not sure of anything that would say if they expanded the premises and included portions of the beach, that would give us cause to disapprove their application.
well, I think it would, at
Well,
least for the whole discussion the last time, the first time this came up was that was real problem. That the beach was not to be considered. And they had agreed to that. They then changed it to in Was that when you were here for that year or was
Yeah.
that before?
I think that,
We'll take up the discussion. Are there any other public comments? Okay, we're gonna close public comment, close the hearing, and open it up for select board discussion before we consider any motion on it. Okay, so now we're in discussion. All right.
So I'd like to see some clarification because clearly some conflicting language about whether or not it's a restaurant, whether or not floor plan. Is just for the retail space and the 60 seats. Eating and campground. Where are the 60 seats? And a little more of their intention about where they plan to be serving alcohol. Selling alcohol.
Any
so
other
this,
discussion?
this comes through the state, correct? They just send us the paper.
Well, they sent this to the state and the state sent it to us.
Yeah.
The state sent it to us on February 18th of 2026.
Yeah.
My sense is that if we approve this. And to your point, if we're approving based on the floor plan. And they're saying in the paperwork that it's for a 60-seat cafe, I would say it remains pretty ambiguous as to what we're approving.
Any other discussion? Someone like to make a motion? Tom, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at multiple documents, right? One of them shows eating in campground, permit from the state of Maine, 60 seats. Something else clearly calls itself, or it's referred to as, retail establishment. It's, I don't know. I don't know. Is this a license for them to sell it on those premises? But if somebody walks out of there with a beer, are they not allowed to take it outside?
If they walk. I
That
believe if they open up inside and go outside, that's a problem, if the outside isn't part of their license, but
Not
hey,
that-
I'm not an alcoholic beverage expert, I'm more of a consumer. Uh,
That would be the sticking point, I think. I certainly understand wanting to keep things away from the beach area, but if people aren't allowed to purchase beer or wine and leave the facility, then yes, we definitely want to get clarification there. If people are allowed to buy something and then go out and consume it on the campground, then I don't know how much more we want to get specific here. So I think that's my number one thing I'd like to understand better.
Now, so if somebody wants to make a motion to table this, I think that would be appropriate and ask the town manager to go back to them for clarification. I would say when they clarify it, there's 8 reasons here that we can deny a permit. And if it's not one of those 8 reasons, then we need to approve it. And if beer on the beach is not one of the reasons on this list, and they revise their application, then I don't see a basis for us to disapprove it because of that reason. So, is there a motion?
I move we table it and ask them for some clarification.
Okay.
So that the information that they're giving us aligns with what the application is.
And so specifically what you're looking for
The-
clarification on is.
The cafe, they're supposed to let
yeah.
us know what the cafe.
Page 7 of 7 appears to be a retail store and doesn't match their description of the area that they want covered, being a cafe and some area with 60 seating for 60 people.
Okay.
Do we all agree that that's our issue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a second for the motion. Any further discussion? Any public comment before we vote? Okay. We are going to go by voice vote because we've got a Zoomer. Tom,
Tom says yes.
Hazel,
Yes.
Mary,
Marianne, yes.
Yes.
Henry says yes. The motion to table carries 5-0. We're done with that. Approving the meeting minutes from the March 17th meeting. Does anyone have any corrections or comments on that? Select board members.
I was not present, so I'm gonna be silent.
I move we approve the minutes from the March 17th meeting.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Tom? Vote,
Oh, yes.
Hazel,
Abstain.
Mary Ann, yes.
Floyd,
Yes,
Henry, yes, motion carries 4-0 with one abstention. The next item on our agenda is 9A, payroll number 36. Would someone like to make a motion on that?
Move we approve, oops. Move we approve payroll number 36 in the amount of $13,256.87.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Tom,
Yes.
Hazel,
Hazel says yes.
Mary Ann,
Mary Ann, yes.
Floyd,
yes,
Henry says yes, motion carries 5-0. Item 9B, consider approving accounts payable number 37. Shannon, can you tell us about that, please?
So it's got two appropriations, which will close out the fiscal year 25-26 appropriations. One's for the Cary Memorial Library and the other is for the Wayne Community Church Messenger. This also includes two refunds for recent donations to the LAD Special Fund. And then also, what is not included in our budget would include the Van Haas Hagen Brussland for the Community Action Grant, which is covered through the grant.
Any questions?
Yes, question, where the refund?
To the individuals.
Oh, I see. Got it. I was looking for a debit, but
It was a total amount of 2,000, 1,000 per.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, I found it after I thought about it. Sorry about that. Move to approve accounts payable number 37, the amount of $342,560.87.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote. Tom?
Yes.
Hazel, yes.
Mary Ann, yes.
yeah, Lloyd, yes,
Henry, yes, motion carries 5-0. Consider accepting donations in the amount of $2,551.80 to supplement the existing appropriation for the LAD Rec Center programs.
So move.
Second, I'll second it. Any discussion?
You can just say so move. Geez, that's easy.
Well, I was
He
I was wordy on my introduction, so I think that'll work. Okay, let's vote. Tom?
Yes.
Hazel?
Hazel, yes.
Mary Ann, yes.
Lloyd, yes,
Henry, yes, motion carries 5-0. Item 9D, donations to the Wayne Athletic League. Is there a motion?
Move to accept donations in the amount of $480 to supplement the existing appropriation for the Wayne Athletic League program.
Seconded.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Tom?
Yes.
Hazel, yes.
Mary Ann, yes.
Lloyd, yes,
Henry, yes, motion carries 5-0. Okay, new business. Consider applications for the appointment of one comprehensive plan committee member to fill a vacancy. Why don't you tell us about this, Shannon, what this group is and who our new applicants might be?
So we have two of the previous applicants, 2 out of the 3. I reached out to contact them. I was unable to contact Tyler Stevenson. So I did include him in this. And I also was able to get in touch with Robert Bandy. The final member decided to withdraw their application due to their current commitments. But after speaking with Robert Bandy, he does currently have additional commitments on the fire department, but he would be happy to serve and step up for the comprehensive planning committee. I would recommend moving ahead with him, unless you'd like me to extend the time frame and try to get in touch with Tyler. We can do that as well.
I would move to approve appointment of the what is his name again, please?
So there were 2. We have Robert Bandy and Tyler
Yeah.
Stevenson. I haven't been
Got
able to
it.
get in touch with yet.
Okay. Well, maybe we should discuss first. Sorry.
Yeah, and does anybody, how do you all feel about a motion to appoint Bob Bandy on the committee?
Motion to appoint Bob Bandy for the Comprehensive Plan Committee, moving him from his non-voting member status.
No, he was, we gave them all, we gave the committee the names of all the people to approach to help them in in a non-voting status. So yes.
That was my
I'll
motion.
second that.
There you go.
Okay, second. Is there any public comment on a new member for the Comprehensive Plan Committee? Okay, further select board discussion? Okay, let's vote. Tom,
Tom, yes.
Hazel,
Hazel, yes.
Marion,
Lloyd,
Yes,
Henry, yes. The motion to appoint Bob Bandy to the Conservation, or I'm sorry, to the Comprehensive Plan Commission is carried 5-0. Okay. Item 10B, discuss the select board's role in RSU 38 grade consolidation decision process. I'm going to open this up for board discussion.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. What exactly
Uh,
is our role?
I believe that the select board's involvement in this matter, absent town, meeting guidance to the contrary, should be to focus on, and it should be limited to ensuring that the RSU follows the procedures and meets all the requirements set forth in statutes, regulations, and agreements that guarantee Wayne's residents their rightful say in this consolidation decision. I've sent to Phil Saucier, our lawyer, a request asking him for guidance that his office could provide regarding requirements the RSU must observe to consolidate grades, such as providing notice or conducting public hearings, making any specific findings of fact, submitting information to the state or obtaining state approval, or other similar procedural due process type requirements. I sent him, I spoke with him on the phone on Thursday. I sent him an email on Friday. I talked to him today. He concurs that our role is limited. And he said he has some of his folks working on it to get back with us. There is a great deal that's readily available on the requirements for closing a school building. I haven't been so successful on finding the requirements for consolidating grades. And his folks are looking into that. And if the RSU failed to do something that was required of them to implement this decision, then it would be my position that the select board should notify them that the corrective action needs to be taken. That's my take on it. Other discussion?
based on some of the research that's been done on how that decision was made, it doesn't seem that it was transparent as they said. And I haven't dug into the legality of that, but it seems like that's not appropriate to make that decision without any community input.
It appears it could have been done better. Whether that makes it, whether that makes their decision ineffective, I think is going to depend on some rules that we need to be informed of, in my opinion. But I would like to have, that's what I asked Phil about. That does anybody think we should have a different role in this on the board?
I think they didn't follow any process or any communications, I think our responsibility is to make sure they followed legal process, and there was an agreement forged between the towns. Especially the statements about the intent of any kind of consolidation. So I think I would like to hear the lawyer's viewpoint, but I also would like to know that the school board is making decisions that not only are affecting the education of our little population, they could potentially be impacting our valuations and things that are broader than just educational things. So I think getting some town input is our responsibility to have the town direct us on what action they wish us to take around the future of our school, whether it's the closing of a grade or the closing of the entire school, which has got more of a process.
I would,
I think they
Okay.
preempted it.
And
other
the-
discussion?
As I understand it, they voted on it the same day they got the proposal. Proposal was
They
put-
did, and if you
yes.
watch the recording, they talked about that
Yeah.
and said, well, things are moving fast, and
Yeah.
that's fairly typical in a budget process. And
I don't think it's very typical to abolish. I don't think it's.
They justified not having
Yeah,
any input from anybody. They also didn't include the role of our local school board, where we have people that have been appointed to see.
it seems to me that one of the concerns is that if there's no school at all, well, there are people who move to other towns. People aren't gonna move to this town, and there are several people who have said that they did move to this town because of the school. I'd like to know something about whether it's really impossible to have kindergartners and first graders in the same class or not. Maybe it is, but I don't have enough background on it. And the last thing I'd say is that they are about to embark on a strategic plan, they call it, which is to determine how much of the school survives. But the strategic plan, without considering the kindergarten as a whole, in connection with the school, seems to be absurd. You know, you have strategic plans, considers the whole school, not just part of it.
I find it disingenuous to say at one meeting that it's gonna be at the next meeting, discuss it at the next meeting and be in the minutes or be in the agenda and have it not in the agenda. And I feel like there needs to be some pushback on the ability for the community to show up at a meeting the way people show up at this meeting when they're concerned.
Let's give our Zoomer a chance to weigh in. Tom?
I was gonna say you have a school board member raising their hand.
Okay, well, we'll take public discussion in a minute. We're talking among ourselves right now.
All good
Okay,
comments.
Tom?
I agree with just about everything that everybody said. I mean, look, it's very possible that in a non-transparent way, research was done, hard thinking was applied. I will give the benefit of the doubt. It's very possible, but we haven't seen it. I mean, I've only seen going to the last meeting and listening to it to some degree being talked about. They're already in talking more about the busing, right, than the actual decision itself. There's so catching up via information that's been shared, the videos, the minutes from the meetings, commentary from a number of people, listening to the impassioned speeches people have been giving. It really suggests this was pushed through very quickly. And I respect if they did that because they felt they had to for budgetary purposes, as was mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Okay, that's a reason, but it's not a good one. Right. So I get it, but you're making a big decision. And I love some of the supporting information that has been shared that talks about different assessments, committees that have studied it, papers that talk about the effects on a town and on a community when schools close. Right. And if anyone wants to say this isn't about school closing, yes, it is. It's about a step in that direction. And I know I heard that even mentioned as a first step in that direction to fulfill the 5-year plan, to get the ball rolling. Right. So I think there are a lot of problems with this. I know I'm repeating, but I'm kind of summing up all my thoughts. It's problematic. Maybe it's all been done pretty well behind the scenes, but it certainly hasn't been done in front and with the inputs from people during a decision-making process. We all got a letter that said people are being listened to. You can't tell somebody you listened to them in hindsight after you didn't through the whole process. So those are my thoughts on it. I would love to see the select board do exactly as we said, and step in and mention our concerns and look for that guidance that we're going to get from the lawyer. Find out, is this clearly something that we can say, we're going to have to press pause on this because you're outside of process from a legal perspective, from an agreed upon perspective, when we all signed on to RSU 38. All right, so those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on what I was saying earlier. First, I'm looking at a decision to consolidate grades, not a decision to close the school.
Right.
The school can't be closed without the consent of the town. That's the law. Now, if the town votes to keep the school open after the district wants to close it, then the town has to pay extra money.
Excuse me, that's inaccurate. If you look at the consolidation agreement, we worked out a different way to do it. So that any extra that was ruled to be paid by the town was to be made up by the surrounding towns. If you look, you'll see it, I sent you the document. I don't mean to interrupt, but I chaired that committee. And if you look at page 22, section 13, section 6, in the event that the board of directors of the regional school unit votes to close an elementary school in a member municipality pursuant to 28 MRSA 12512 or successive provision, and the voters of that member municipality vote to keep the school open, the cost sharing percentage of the member municipality paying the school retention expense shall be reduced by the percentage necessary to equal that expense. And the cost sharing percentages of the other municipalities shall be adjusted proportionately to reflect that amount. We put that in there to avoid the situations that you were just describing. Now, Wayne might decide to close the school to lower the overall school budget. But based on this agreement, and this was drafted by the committee's lawyer and approved by the state, based on this agreement, the town does not pay the additional cost of keeping the school open. I just wanted to correct you on that.
Okay. And the statute does say differently. And I read that and I wasn't clear exactly what it said. And perhaps we do and perhaps we don't. That's what I would say now.
I know that was the intent, and I know that our lawyer drafted that.
Okay.
Because I was there.
Well, then we have no problem. The school cannot be closed, correct?
Well, the school could be closed,
Yes.
but the school's closing would not save money to the district. They can close the school.
But the town,
Oh, no.
the school can't be closed without the town's consent.
Without the town's consent.
So if what you have indicated is correct, and I'm not prepared to fuss about it. If what you've indicated is correct, then as far as the closing of the school, the town can oppose it. And based on what you told me as a special condition in this agreement, there's no additional cost to the town.
That's my understanding of the foundation
Okay.
agreement. It was our lawyers.
And so the only way the school can close, if the town agrees to close it, knowing that it's not going to cost the town any extra money.
But the other option is if they can transfer grades, then the school might wind up being a one grade school.
Right.
So
I
that's
think-
it. I don't want to break into the process and keep talking, so.
Thank you. Okay.
So
Any other-
relative to closing the kindergarten, I
Mhm.
think. In some cases I've heard that's being done for financial reasons, but they haven't explained what the financial impacts are
I asked them.
okay, what are we gonna do with the kindergartners? And they also, yeah, they talk about the educational value, but they haven't addressed how to make, classes bigger. Because, you know, the kid probably doesn't know whether they're with a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. They're all kids.
But, yes, ma'am. And I asked them what the savings was, and they basically told me that it wasn't a savings issue, it was an educational issue. I mean, that should be on a video somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be on a video somewhere.
So in terms of our role, I
Yeah,
think our role
but-
is to say they haven't followed process, they haven't been transparent, and they haven't fully explored.
Yeah, but our role, in my view, is as the executive branch of the town, is to ensure that the town is treated fairly in accordance with the law and agreement. I don't believe that the select board's role at this point in time is to say we oppose or we support consolidation of the kindergarten. Because we don't have that direction from the town. There's 20 people here that will probably say we oppose consolidation of the kindergartens, and I appreciate your positions on that. Maybe 20 other people might come in and say, our taxes are too high, we support consolidation of the kindergartens.
It's not gonna change the taxes.
Listening to those people, if it's,
Consolidate, don't consolidate. The tax is not gonna change.
so if any segment of the town, I would suggest is not the town, any more than if 3 or 5 people on this board felt that we supported the consolidation because our taxes were too high and it reduced the school budget, which reduces our allocation of the school budget, which reduces our taxes. It would be wrong for us to take a vote and say, yes, the select board of the town of Wayne supports this. I think our job is to see that the town is treated fairly in strict accordance with all of our agreements. And then if we get direction from the town, otherwise, the town being a town meeting, then we follow that direction. That's my opinion. And so that's what I was saying. So is there more select board discussion on it before we open up for public comment?
I agree with our role. And yet I'm, you know, personally really, because they could, let's say next year they take the 6th grade out. So I think that we should at least give them some feedback and say, you owe our town clear indication of why this decision was made and input.
I think we need to make them follow the process, but what I just told you is what I think. I'm 1 of 5. We make whatever motions we want, take whatever votes we want to take. It's 3 out of 5. Hopefully, 3 out of 5 of us won't decide we support closing the kindergartens or consolidating the kindergartens. But that's what I think. So it's you know, we should decide what our role is going to be.
I think we can say that our role is to make sure they follow due process, the
Yeah.
law, and that they allow time for residents to come and direct us as a select board on what action they want us to take. And if they should be taking action as a school board prior to that process being allowed to happen.
Are we ready to open up for public comment?
Sure.
All right, let's have it.
We have one online.
Yes, ma'am.
It's David Twitchell.
Okay. David, are you on?
David, you need to unmute.
I'm working on it. I was on the road, so I had to pull over. Thank you. You got me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm so grateful that the select board is going over this and that so many in the town are going over it together. I can't answer or address everything like those legal issues. I think it's very important that it be looked at from all sides and carefully and watched out for. I think the board of the school district feels that is well aware that closing a school is not okay without going through a huge process, and they know that. I think their advice has told them that they do have the right to move students back and forth between the schools according to what they feel is educationally best. On the timing and the openness, the original, having been on the budget committee, the original budget that was planned included none of these cuts. It was responsible and it wasn't huge, but it included none of these. It wasn't until, from our perspective, last minute, the state yanked the rug out from under us that the administrative team was sent back to the table and said, we need almost $1 million. Or we're going to be slamming the towns. What can you do? And the administrative team came up with the plans that included moving the 5th grade. But the way they put it, and I think the consensus on the board was that they looked at it and they felt that even though they weren't sure how much of a saving moving the 5th grade was, that it was a 1st grade. Keep switching them in my conversations. First, the kindergarten. Moving the kindergarten was something that, because of the small numbers in the classes, was educationally very valuable for the students and even the teachers. And then they needed to work through things and figure out how the busing could be done so that it was as safe as possible for the students and stuff. As a later thing, for instance, I asked why the kindergarten was, from Wayne in particular, was moved to Reed Field, when maybe some Reed Field students could have been moved to Maine to fill out those classes. And it was basically, well, the pre-K is already there. They've been there all year. So they are the ones that are going to move into kindergarten. So why not keep them in a familiar school, which educationally and in some personal ways for the students is very reasonable. And I think that our education team was thinking very carefully, trying to do things that would be good for the students in their classes and so forth. And even an ex-teacher from the district that was on the board has concerns about it all, but was very understanding and positive on that idea of the students being together. So I don't think it was underhanded in that way. And although I think some are very much consolidation would be great and all that, I think the board in general voted, and the A team or the administrative team came up with this because they felt it would not only save money, but also be good for the students. Now, I've come to the conclusion that the board, from my perspective, fell down school board, because their job was to consider the educational wisdom and recommendations of the A team, which were good recommendations, and the effect on the community. And I think they did not, as we've seen by the reactions of so many people, they or we, since I'm on the board, did not take into consideration enough the effect on the community. We always hear the effect from taxes going up, but the effect on the community of moving out the 5th grade, of potentially closing the school, wasn't considered. But they very definitely were not intentionally, from all I saw and heard, trying to go towards closing the school. They were dealing with what's best for these tiny classes. But we need to think about it very carefully because of all the impacts that it has and will have in other ways. And this is where the select board and the community need to get very involved in that strategic planning process, because that's where there'll be some that believe very strongly that we need things more centralized. And so that strategic planning process is where a lot can be said and done. As far as this coming year, moving the 5th grade, first kindergarten, thank you, sorry, everybody. We are, it's pretty much set. I can, and Andrew and I, who are on the board for Wayne, can keep bringing it up, but we were soundly defeated before. And so the town speaking up in other ways, if worse came to worse, the town could potentially vote down the budget in the budget meeting school has. And send the board a message that they had the board and the A-team go back and figure out a way to adjust things. Voting it down would not force them to reinstate the kindergarten, but it would send a clear message. And unless there's questions for me, I'll stop rambling.
Thank you. Thank you, David. My experience tells me to look at it in terms of they followed the rules or they didn't follow the rules. And if they didn't follow the rules, we make them do it. With that, let's open up for public discussion. Eric?
If I could comment on that in particular. I think even if you get back a legal opinion that says they did everything legally correct, that they follow the statutes, they follow the regional agreement, I think it is still the role of the select board, given the comments tonight, that you send them a very strongly worded letter expressing the concerns, displeasure, outrage, pick your verb, your noun, with the process that was followed, and that this should not be a process that is repeated in the future, that there needs to be more transparency, more community involvement in a decision that's going to affect the entire community. I don't think it should just be a matter of whether it was legal.
Yes.
So there's legal and there's legal and illegal, and there's lots of other things you can do in the context of legal. And I think what you're doing, what Hazel said is correct. They clearly didn't follow the rules. They clearly didn't get public input. But there are still some things that the select board can do with the town's push about this year. I mean, we had multi-grade classrooms for a long time in this town, and it was very successful. We don't need to send our kindergartners. They could be combined with first grade. We've already saved the teacher. What's up, huh? In the budget they did, we took it out, right? So it would just be a matter of something practical to get through at least one more year. So this can be considered. This is going to be a pretty considerable outrage. We talk about Androscoggin Lake being an existential issue for the town. This is an existential issue for the town. If you're going to have a school starting from kindergarten and the prospects of having no school, if the process is even in the wind, I don't know why people want to bring their families here. We need the families. We're not a neighborhood of Reedfield. We're a sovereign town. That's the message I hope you take. You need to tell them it may or may not be legal. It certainly wasn't conducted very well. And I'm kind of sorry to have to say it, but a lot of people let everybody down here. But the fact is, you can save the day and say, this wasn't what we need for the process. And how about just as a fail-safe, put the thing off for a year. It's not going to be that big a deal. I can't imagine having a 5 or 6 year old in my household and not knowing where they're going to be going and thinking maybe you have to park them all the way to Reedfield or some other place. And if you had 2 kids, and you've got one here and one there, it's not something you can adapt to very easily. So I think as a select board, you've got strategic issues that you should worry about. Thank you.
Lance Stiniford, I taught in the Wayne Elementary School for 25 years, and I taught K1 for 2 of those years, combined grade. It is an extremely challenging combination, especially with there only being 1 teacher and no ed tech, which is the condition that I did it under. But I do feel it was successful. And the first year I did, I had 7 kindergartners and only 4 first graders. The year before, when those first graders were kindergartners, they were in a combined grade as well. And there were only 4 of them. So it can be done. It is not easy. It's not ideal for the kids or for the teacher. I completely understand that, probably more than anybody else in this room. I know what that's like, because for half of your day, you are doing something that is not appropriate for half of your class. That's just the reality. But I did it. The other thing about the process, it was very unequal. I know for a fact that the two preschool families from Mount Vernon knew about this. They had a meeting with their principal, it was discussed, they knew about it, and they were, I don't know what the reaction to it was, but at least they were informed. That did not happen here. And I think that is a part of the outrage and should be addressed.
Others? Stan?
Well, yeah, as a past school board member and select board member, the select board has advised the school about community reactions to issues in the past, most specifically about budget. And there's no question that the school has followed the correct legal procedure about budget. But several times during my tenure on the select board communicated community feelings about the size of the budget. So I know that there is a history of the select board transmitting community and select board concerns about issues that were not based on legalities. Secondly, I think I agree that the process was terrible, but not illegal, because I see on your agenda tonight, there's a section properly for issues that were not on the printed agenda. And as I looked at the main public meeting law, I didn't see any requirement of agendas even being published. And I looked at the Brunswick Town Council standards, which are very extensive, and they say agendas are a good idea, but decisions made without being announced in advance are valid. So I just think it's but I think the fundamental thing that needs to be communicated, besides the concern about those kids and the families, is that this whole enterprise runs on trust. We're the oldest, one of the oldest communities in the state, second or third oldest. And yet Wayne has always voted school budgets. Yeah, he's always voted yes on school budgets. And we've done that not because our children were in school, we trusted the school administration. And this is action, the process that was followed is an action that attacks that trust. And it attacks that trust at a time when we're being asked to trust that the planning process we're going into is real, is authentic, it isn't already predetermined. Well, I think it's fine for the board to express those concerns and issues. I'm not saying the board should say, keep those kids here, whatever, that's a different thing. But that the board should express concern about the process and the issues and the way in which this has affected the trust of folks in the community in the process. And I agree with you, Henry, that it's easy to put this together with the idea of school closing, but I don't think that's what we're talking about now. I do think that the process for closing may be more cumbersome and more under our control than people anticipated from the board, but I think that's a whole other thing.
And not to interrupt the public comment, but I do think that we will, at least I will ask for some research and opinions on, I mean, I'm pretty sure you can't close the school without the town's agreement. I will ask, well, but can you eliminate all the grades except one? I mean, can you circumvent that by a piecemeal closure and get an opinion on that? I'm sorry, back to you guys. Any other public comments? Yeah.
David Stevenson. I've also made a great number to keep the two items separate, the kindergarten moving versus this strategic plan and the potential closing the school. However, in the school board presentation, they aren't completed because they're talking about moving the kindergarten and then they're using the numbers that Wayne future based off of not having a kindergarten. And all of a sudden you're talking about 40 kids. And at the meeting that you attended, there were other towns saying, why are we paying for 40 kids? So it's already being used in a forward motion towards closing the school, whether or not it's being said out loud. Separate from that, because I think that there's enough other people talking about what we can do now for the kindergarten. Looking forward towards a strategic process, I think, again, as I mentioned before, I think it would behoove the town for the select board to set aside some amount of money for our own consultant to say, these are the realities of all of the options going forward, whether it's keeping the school, staying in the RSU, closing the school, leaving the RSU, going to a CSD, whatever the variety of options are, what's reasonable for the town, what's reasonable for the district, the future of all of us. I love Miranda Cook. I went to Miranda Cook. A lot of people here went to Miranda Cook. But the trust has been eroded. Everybody that went to those meetings, so feels sort of betrayed and not heard, no matter how many times we've been told we've been heard. It's just a false, empty word. And I know that there's a lot of documentation from other towns that have also moved back from the consolidation plans that were enforced by the state. And this town ran its own school for 79 years. I think we'll be able to do it again.
Does anybody have a number on how many kindergartens that we're supposed to have in Wayne?
Three
as of right now.
No. Yeah, I called the secretary at school and she said, and I quote, a handful.
My daughter's not included in that, but she would have gone to kindergarten had I had the chance.
And my grandson hasn't signed up yet.
Okay.
But it's fine. Both my kids had classes of 5 and 6.
And there might be more that we're not aware of.
But he hasn't signed up because he was told that, they were told that he's gonna be going to meet you. Automatically.
Correct.
Yes.
That's why he hasn't signed up yet.
And
There's
I'm not wanting to be, meeting Nazi or anything. But let's kind of go one at a time, although I think that was a good interchange. We've got some folks on Zoom that want to say something.
Brad Batchelder.
Brad?
Hi, Henry. Yeah, you'd wondered if a school board could chip away at a school until there really wasn't anything left. And the answer is, based on my discussion with the executive director of the Maine School Board of Directors, School Board Association, the answer is yes. And that is the plan to next year take away first grade, the following year take away second, and then a couple years after that, fifth will move to the middle school. So it'll be third and fourth grade, and we won't have a principal. We probably won't have janitorial staff. And who's going to want to be in that sinking ship as a teacher? By the time it does come to that town vote, there won't be anything left to vote on. So I mean, I absolutely want to echo the sentiment and the words that have been said. I support what Tom said. I think that Lynette is 100% hit the nail on the head. This is a nail in the coffin of shutting that school down. And that plan that the school board has put out, based on my experience, they don't want to hear input from the town of Wayne. They're not interested. They're not concerned with it, and they're going to move forward in one of those two proposed directions, which both are going to have the school closed down. And again, we might vote to save a third or fourth grade, but there's not going to be anything left to save.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Holly?
Hi, Holly Stevenson, and I was on the school board for many years, 2 different times. Second time during consolidation, I was on the board with Stan and Sue maybe. So I feel some responsibility because we didn't want to consolidate. It was mandated by the state. And I think it's very important to start at the beginning, which was that the 4 towns came together with a very clear understanding that we were all equal. And we all had equal representation, and we all had the exact same payment for our students. And if you don't know that, you really should, because that's how Wayne came to be part of Maranica. So that's the base of our partnership with the other 3 towns. Now, I understand the state changed the rules and we had to consolidate. And that's how we're operating now. But that doesn't erase how we originally agreed to be a district together. And my thinking about your role as select board.
The Alice rebelling.
Is that your responsibility is to do what's best for the town. And that's not making sure this is a legal agreement. That is looking at what is best for the town. And I totally agree that taking the kindergarten, closing the kindergarten in Wayne is the first step in closing the school. It's pretty obvious. And if you don't have a school, what's Wayne? It's certainly not a town many people would want to move to, certainly not if you have children. So your role to me is looking out for what's best for the town, and that's fighting to keep our kindergarten in Wayne. And I really hope that you will contact a lawyer at MMA who knows about school law and the history of consolidation. They can work with a town lawyer if you want, but I feel like they have a much better understanding of what the issues are. And one of the things I feel I have to mention is in 2011, there was a move to change the configuration of the district. And Lynette, I think you were on that team to explore it. And I have the letter, and I think I shared it with some of you, from the school's attorneys to ask if they were going to keep all of the elementary schools, but mix the lower grades.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes,
I'll tell
please.
you. So the number one priority at that point was to keep a school in every town. And the way they would do it is to turn Reed Field into a 3-4-5 and take the K-1-2 from Reed Field and divide them into into Manchester, Mount Vernon, and Wayne. So Manchester, Mount Vernon, and Wayne became K-1-2s. And Reed Field was a 3-5, and then that was the direct feed into the middle school. And I said this at the first meeting that I attended, school board meeting, this district school board meeting, that it was not anybody's first choice. And we had a huge committee. There were, I don't know, 30 people and a facilitator. And we met for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we sifted through all these possible plans. And as often happens in a compromise, when you're trying to reach consensus, it was nobody's first choice. It was almost everybody's second choice. Because nobody wanted to, people felt very strongly about not sending third graders to Reed Field, let alone K-1-2. And Reed Field didn't want anything to do with sending their K-1-2s to other schools, although geographically, it made a ton of sense because it was actually a shorter bus ride for some Reed Field students to go to Manchester or Mount Vernon or Wayne than it was for them to go to Reed Field. So, and educationally, the idea that you would have fifth graders entering middle school, having had a common experience, was an enormous boon to the middle schools because they spend a lot of time in that sixth grade year trying to get the disparate fifth graders on the same page. So we had a lot of good reasons for that plan. That's not something this board is considering. It's not.
No, and that was keeping all the schools. So there wasn't, while it wasn't, there were tensions around it, there were no schools closing. And so the letter I have is from 2011 when the superintendent asked Drummond Woodson, who was their legal counsel, whether it was legal to move the kids. And although the response is mainly positive, yes, it's legal, there are two places where, and I just want to read it because I think it's important, because it comes back to, is it legal? There is some language in the reorganization plan from which it could be argued that the intent of the reorganization plan was not to permit such a reconfiguration of grade levels. So there it is. It can be argued. And there's another place in the letter where it says, as noted above, the issue of the board's authority in this respect is not entirely free from doubt. So all I'm saying is, somebody could say it's legal. They said it was legal. And that wasn't this same scenario of closing a grade, but they also said there's doubt. So my proposal is that you fight to keep our kindergarten here. Because once that's gone, we're already behind the 8 ball. And this just makes it worse. You know, you can't get back those numbers when they're gone. And I'd also like to propose that the board immediately start to work out a process for us to look at options. We can't wait. You know, we can't wait. We can't ask them to be sure and follow the rules. We really need to look at what our options are if we want to keep a school in town. And I certainly hope that select board wants to do that.
Okay. Others? Yes.
I just wanted to amend what I said. I said, I didn't see this as connected to closing, but I've been convinced by a couple of things people have said that it is. Because I've always worried that the school board could whittle away one grade at a time. I'm also really concerned hearing that there are other kids who didn't sign up for kindergarten because they were told that that would mean going to Reedfield, because that means the numbers that this work is being planned on are inaccurate. So I think there's a strong reason for the board to express the sense of this meeting and the input that you've gotten and your own thoughts about this decision as a push toward closing and operating under inaccurate numbers, and asking the board to reopen the decision based on those, and done out of process, and asking the board to reopen the decision based on those concerns.
David Twitchell online too.
Say what?
David Twitchell's online again.
Okay. Hey, David, what's up?
Hi there. I just wanted to, well, a couple of things. I wanted to reemphasize that although I don't disagree at all that this is a slope or a process that is pulling us towards losing our grade or grades. The options that were put forward as things that would be talked about, and anything else was an option, included keeping all 4 elementary schools as is. So it's not shut out in the 5-year plan we're hoping that everybody will be working on, but also considering other possibilities. For instance, we recently as a community lost our daycare, or a big one that was helping a lot. And last year, and this sort of was losing a grade, the preschoolers were sent to Reedfield. And now this coming year, kindergarten. So yeah, that looks like the wrong direction from many of our perspectives. But the town, and even the town school committee, has the right, the committee has the right to present a suggested budget for the town, the village, to the school board, and also to suggest budgetary items for the town to consider. And this is one place where some of the planning could help the town and others, is working with the committee and the resources of the town to see what other options we have. Could we, as a town, have a universal preschool and universal daycare and kindergarten based on ability to pay for the daycare, at least? This is just throwing out thoughts, but we very much need everybody involved in it, including the town whenever possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Yes, ma'am. I can go.
Jeannie Brand, I have a 2nd grader at Wayne and then a child going into pre-K in the fall. And just speaking about how I think it is kind of a piece of the pipeline to closure. 2 days after that decision was made, I was at the meeting that it was made, and but I took my 3-year-old to the pre-K screening. And they all spoke about it like he was going to Reed Field. They were like, you know, you're gonna send him to pre-K here and then he's gonna keep going. So it wasn't like this is a 1-year decision and then it will be walked back. It was like, this is a done deal.
Thank you, Paul.
Hi, Dr. Paul Intercessian. I specialize in community health and population health. And robust, healthy communities are multi-generational, have many people representing diversity at all age levels. And the town of Wayne would benefit from multiple age groups represented. If we lose our school, we will be suffering from a lack of representation from our youngest population demographics. So we should fight. We should fight, as Holly Stevenson mentioned, I think, as hard as we can to save our school and to save all the grade levels. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna hit people that we haven't heard from.
Sue Spalding, I have been on the school board many years. I'm currently on what they call the local school committee, which was established, local school committees were established by the reorganization plan. And, but apparently Wayne is the only town of the 4 towns that, actually has a local school committee. And it consists of myself, Teresa Kirchner, and David. And so I did, you know, we actually sent a letter as the local school committee to the school board, asking them to look at the decision. We have not heard back from them on that letter. They did bring it back to a vote on that the first school board meeting when a bunch of us spoke. And they took another vote right then and all voted it down to rethink the kindergarten movement. We've had a meeting with the superintendent and the principal indicated that she did advocate for this move, that she really believes that multi-age doesn't work anymore, so I mean, she discounted that. She felt that it was best educationally for this kindergarten kids to go to whichever school. I'm not even clear on which school they're supposed to be going to. Reed Field. And when I spoke at the meeting, when we talked, I didn't use your name, Jeannie, but I actually said that a pre-K parent had been told that it was a done deal, that her kid was gonna never come to the Wayne Elementary. And the superintendent said, "Oh, that's not true. I'm so sorry that happened." So I said, well, your staff is saying this now. So, you know, anyway, just to give you a little bit more of the background. The other thing is and I do agree with Holly that we need to fight for this. I'm looking at the regional school unit board communications that says the board is responsible to all of the people for whose benefit the school district has been established. Good communication between the school system and its citizens is crucial for the development of mutual understanding, respect, and confidence. And it's a two-way process, disseminating and receiving. I would really like the select board to send a letter, as I think Eric talked about, asking them again to, expressing the dissatisfaction of the community, pointing out that they didn't even follow their own board policy to communicate with people. They never, as Lynette said, they did not talk to the parents until after the vote was taken. They didn't talk with the local school committee. The whole idea of the local school committee is for communication between the school and the community, obviously. We know we don't have any authority, which I don't know why the board had to meet with a lawyer to have them tell them that we didn't have any legal authority. We knew darn well we don't have any legal authority. That's why we wrote them a letter asking them to reconsider. But anyway, so
I guess I would also ask that you guys, write a letter. You might want to have a committee of people to work on this. I would really like to know, they wouldn't tell us the names of the parents that were being affected or the names of the kids because of confidentiality. So I don't know really how many kids. They said 3, maybe 4. So if you're a parent of somebody of a kindergartner for next year, I'd love to have the names of the people, of the parents who are, whose kids are being affected. Because the school committee would still like to try to help the parents. And I guess that's probably enough.
Okay, thank you. Before I forget, Holly, the letter that you were reading from, I'd like a copy of it. Send it to Shannon. Because I interpreted it not that it's legal, but I interpreted that it's probably legal, but it might not be.
Right.
That's what I heard in that letter. And so we could use that. Yeah, but I just wanted to get that before I forgot because I'm an old man. Anybody else? Okay. Yes, ma'am, you haven't heard from you?
Yes, I'm Anna Ryerson, and
Yes.
I would just like to say that
Can I
my
have this?
children went to school here. And that's why we moved to Wayne, because we got a small school here.
Mhm.
And I feel very strongly that our school is the heart of our town. So I think it is really important, and I agree with what everyone has said, that we need to fight to keep our school. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody who hasn't spoken? Yes, ma'am. You haven't
My
spoken?
name is Lauren. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, so I think my 5-year-old is one of the students who's not counted in that current, there's only 3 students in Wayne, because she did not go to pre-K, because we didn't want her to go to Reedfield. We wanted her to go to Wayne, that's why we moved to Wayne. So we're just incredibly disappointed to, once we were finally going to do the kindergarten screening, there's a separate line for the Wayne students. And then I literally was about to call and I saw a post on Facebook saying that oh, the Wayne kindergarten's closed for next year. And so obviously there was not appropriate outreach to the parents because I'm one of the parents and I didn't know it was happening until it was actually decided. And so I also have a 3-year-old who will be doing pre-K. But once this decision was made, we actually went to an open house at a Montessori school in Augusta. And we made a deposit for them to go there next year instead, because I just feel like we have no options anymore. So it's financially impacting me. I'm stressed out about it, really frustrated.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken that has something to say? Ken?
Yes, Ken Spalding, I haven't spoken. I do think it's important for the select board to make sure that the school board is following and the administration is following things legally. But I also think it's important for the select board to stand up for the town. And I think it's important whether or not the town is being treated fairly, and clearly it is not being treated fairly. And I think that should be brought, I think the select board should make that known, that is the sentiment, that we need to be treated fairly. I also agree that the select board should try to do whatever it can to rectify the mistake in their process and reopen the consideration for the elementary school, because it is a slippery slope and we are headed that way. And I think that it's important for the select board to look at the comprehensive plan and see how that fits in with the school and make sure we're protecting our direction through the comprehensive plan. I don't even know, I haven't checked it out to see what the school says, but certainly we want to maintain the character that's in the comprehensive plan. And the character of the town is determined by its residents, not just our natural environment. And I firmly believe that, and it's, studies do show that towns that lose their schools face a downward spiral in many respects. And I think it's important for the select board to protect the town from that sort of, for what's already started. And it's starting with the pre-K, and now it's moving to the kindergarten. And no one who has kids is going to move to Wayne if there's no school here. And few with kids in the 1, 2, 3-year-olds are going to move here if they have the option to go into a town that has kindergarten.
Can I just ask for one thing real quick? Let's just show of hands. How many people have kids who went through their schools here in town? One, holy smoke. Almost, let the minutes show, could we? Let the minutes show,
Lots of hands.
lots.
I would add, we wouldn't have moved to Wayne 45 years ago if there was not a school.
Yes, that question.
Anything else from anybody who hasn't spoken? Yes, there's a hand in the back that looks unfamiliar.
I just. What Ken was saying, it rings so true. Look at how many people are here who don't have children coming up, but had children who were educated in that school, knowing that these kids did well and that it is important for the town to maintain their school. And a school isn't a school if you ship half of your kids away. And then you aren't going to look at that and say, oh, well, then he'll be back for first grade and then it'll continue on. You're going to look at that school and say, these guys are nuts. You know, I'm going to live in a place that is, sorry, Lord, a little too strong. It just doesn't make any logical sense. And it doesn't make logical sense to me. My wife tells me I'm not a logical person, you know, and so if it doesn't make logical sense to me, then it really has got to be vile. And I just think that to write a letter to the board and say, well, we want to make sure you're following your legal and your legal requirements when you're doing this. They're gonna just throw that in the wastebasket right over their head. And they're gonna do a thing with it. And I think we have to talk about, yes, did they legally able to do this? Probably. Were they ethically able to do this? I don't think so. Not the ethics that I know.
Have you?
I just want to say
Yes, sir.
that our daughter.
Can you tell us your name, please?
Jan Cook,
Okay.
the logical one.
Yeah.
I just, the daughter, went through from kindergarten over here at the grade school, all the way up through Marina Cook. But she was in the double classroom all the way through. And it was marvelous. So I'm hoping that if that option will be put out there for these kindergarten kids to go kindergarten first, second, or whatever. I mean,
I think we've heard from everybody.
With an A.
Once.
I just want to say that, another option that would be considered is pre-K and K. So, you know, there's many options.
Okay. I'm ready. Oh, yes, sir. We haven't heard from you. Please.
Kyle Borpagel. I've got 2 kids in the elementary school. 2 things that I agree with everything that's been said on the issue, but there's 2 things that I haven't heard. One, you take kindergarten and you take it away, you put it in Reedfield or wherever you want to put it. Those kids are never coming back. They're going to stay wherever they went. I have friends that have done that. There's Wayne residents that have do that now because it's easier. So we're not gonna, call it the nail in the coffin. You're not gonna get those kids back. The other thing is the school board, one of their premises that they said for this whole decision was the enrollment numbers. Don't forget that the incoming pre-K are kids born in 21. There was not a lot of kids born in 21, 22. Where's the studies, how about the kids born in 23, 24? Those numbers are gonna rebound. I don't have the facts, but common sense tells me they will.
Okay.
And I will say one of the last thing is, Don was saying, we don't even have a true number of the enrollment. We're already up to 5. We've got classes in Wayne with 6. There's multiple classes with 6. So.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go back to the select board
I'm
and for board discussion. And if anybody wants to make a motion, we're going into board discussion now. Don't leave. I got an editorial comment to make before you. Yeah, good.
Just follow up after the raising of the hands.
Yeah.
I want to make a point that I don't have children that went to school here. My child went to a different school somewhere else. I don't have grandchildren here, but I feel very strongly, despite that fact, that we need a school here. And even though I don't have children that went to school here, nor will I have children needing to go to school here, I still believe we need a school here.
Okay.
I'd like to add one quick thing.
Yes.
This is, it adds on to this. The reason we don't have that many kids here is not just school. Housing costs too much in this town. I think we require 2 large lots up in my neighborhood. There's no reason we need to have a 3-acre lot to have a house. I would like the comprehensive planning committee or another committee appointed by the board to address the other barriers there are to young families settling in Wayne. Because if we don't fix that, we don't really fix the issue of the school until we attract more young people to it.
Okay, I'm gonna break the rules here and get in trouble with an editorial comment, okay? A lot of people, I think you all are entitled to select board representation that you feel good about and confident with and makes you happy, okay? And you all probably have different opinions about different attitudes you see, and that's why I'm going to make this announcement. The town clerk is accepting nominating papers until Friday for select board. And so far, none have been taken out. End of that. So. Board discussion.
School board positions open too.
Yes.
Yes,
We've
we
got
worked with those.
candidates.
There's at least someone is taking out papers on those, yeah.
I wanted to fill in a little gap on something I've heard. It's been alluded to in a couple of places.
Mhm.
And I got a little bit of background information around what used to be called Child Development Services.
Mhm.
I think it's called Early Intervention for Maine now.
Mhm.
And it's services that are provided for, well, they got birth to 2 and then 3 to 5. Currently, the 3 to 5-year-olds are in the middle of a transition plan through the state, and those children are transitioning into the local schools. So our populations actually are going to have more, because those kids would currently be counted under CDS services, and I don't know how many we have in the town in that window, but there are probably more children in our head count that are being thought about for future. Whether or not the birth rate has gone up, the population is going to expand because it won't just be K through 12, it'll be the 3 to 5-year-olds plus the K through 12 that will be educated in local school systems.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
2 things. I will be making a motion that we write a letter.
Mhm.
But the other thing I wanted to say, I know Kingfield, when they ran into their issues, the select board appointed a committee to work on this. So I know we have a school committee, but there's a lot of passionate people here. So I would like to tee up the idea of putting together a committee of people to really study this and do things that we, as a board, maybe cannot do. Ask them to focus on it, and give them directions as to what we need.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Now, whatever we decide, I'm fine with it. I believe, I was there when a motion was made to reconsider and saw it fail 11-2, okay? I think we can write a letter and say, boy, the people in Wayne are really mad about this. And we think you were very bad and you were not transparent. And I think you should change what you're doing. And I think that's going to work out about as well as that vote that you saw. Okay. I think if you can wait a little bit and find out, is there a basis to say, not that we don't like what you did, but that you did it incorrectly. And I suspect if that's the case, they're not going to say, oh, we did it incorrectly, throw that out and forget about it, because you can make them do it correctly. Maybe that'll make a difference. Maybe that won't make a difference. under the agreement as I read it, and Stan has read it recently, he can correct me if I'm wrong. The agreement that was set up that I saw basically gives Wayne a 14% vote in this enterprise. So the deal about it was 4 equals. What I read is Wayne is 14%. Well, the only paper I saw, it was, I don't know how it changed, but maybe it changed, but
It's proportional to population.
it's 14%.
That's why we put in the provisions of our
Yeah,
closing.
yeah.
Make it more difficult.
And so with that, Mary Ann wants us to discuss forming a committee. What would you suggest to who is going to draft a charge? And what should our process be to put this committee in motion? Tom, are you still with us in all this?
I am listening to every word.
All right, I just don't want to forget about you.
We're gonna put you in charge of the committee, Tom.
Committee, because you weren't here. That's
I'm here.
That's the process. I can't come up with language for a charge. I would be glad to work with people,
Okay.
and put my time in. And ask people who might have a better idea how to charge a committee to go forward with this. I don't think the 5 of us can do what needs to be done and take the passion of the town and the feelings of the town about this. But I think it needs to be done. I would agree with you, perhaps if we wait, our letter can be stronger, but time is of the essence. So if we don't write it if we don't make that motion this week, we need to do something next week.
So I think I'm hearing there's 2 things that we need to do. One is to charge a committee to help protect the school's interest in the town's interest in the school. The other is sending a message to the school board. I think while we could wait and shore it up with more details, we could actually send a letter that says, we feel very strongly we've heard a lot of very passionate stuff from the school, from the community about our school and the kindergarten closing, and we want you to reconsider. And we are taking further action to figure out the legality of the process in which you've acted, and recommend that you reconsider this, and allow due process to be followed. Then we put them on notice. They still have to address it. And if they choose to fling it, then we've set the wheels in motion that we're gonna come back harder.
Yes.
And it gives them an opportunity to reconsider. They heard a lot at the last school board meeting. They've heard a lot of the prior one. And I don't know what their process is on how they take public comment, but I think as a select board, we have to protect our town.
So how are we gonna get the letter written?
Well,
And I will comment that I thought of all the presentations I heard from Wayne people at the last school board meeting that I was at, I thought yours was the best. So now, who's gonna write this letter?
I hope you noticed, I represented myself as a resident. So while we can, I think we could get a very complicated motion on the table if we try and put all of the ifs, ands, and buts into what's gonna go in the letter. I would rather have a more simple motion that talks about drafting a letter, expressing the town sentiment and concerns that we have about the process, and then put the details in. So
I don't think it needs to be in the motion. The way you stated it a few minutes ago was right on point for a motion. And then now I'm asking, how do we execute that motion? We have a motion that says we're gonna do something, which I assume will pass. How are we gonna do it?
First, I'll second it.
Okay, well, so the motion is that the select board send a letter indicating that we have had extensive and passionate public comment, and that we are concerned about the due process rights of the town being observed in this process, because just how quick it was in the notices that we had or whatever. And we want them to reconsider. What else did you say? You had
Uh,
you had it on, you hit it right on the head.
Yeah, I couldn't repeat it. I think I
You're
said
right,
something
though.
about, we will be following up with legal to make sure due process was followed. But that's why I tried not to put all the language in. I'd rather just have motion that talks about having a letter and we'll figure out the details.
And the owl knows all. Shannon can go on there and get our wording more proper for minutes for next time. So
Yes.
so there's a motion on the table that the select board write a letter.
Who made the motion?
Hazel.
Okay.
And there's a second.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All right, let's vote. Tom?
Tom says yes.
Hazel says yes.
Marianne, yes.
Lloyd says yes.
Henry says yes.
Now, Henry, there's some in parallel
Okay.
activities, in my opinion, though. So working on a letter and getting it over is great. You yourself mentioned that we can do everything we want to complain, and yes, we're going to try to look into the legality. But it could very well come down to we complain harder, we get more severe. It still goes down this path. In parallel, and I think this was first mentioned a couple of weeks back when it first came up, right? I think it was Taylor that brought it up, or at least in conversation with me, but a little bit of an assessment on our options, better understanding our options, getting some clarification on price, cost impacts, right? But let's know what our options are here. Otherwise, we're going down a path with no leverage with any information for us to, be dealing from a position of strength that we actually have options that we could be thinking about.
Yes.
So, which is some of what I hoped a committee that we could charge would be looking at.
So should we have a motion that we're going to create a committee to look at the future of the Wayne Elementary School?
Yeah.
And then, and pass that motion, but draft it and come back with the actual charge in a future?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that Thomas putting the additional item on the table of, do we want to ask the town for money to hire consultants to advise us on this? Am I correct, Tom?
I would think that if we're going to do the job right, we're going to need somebody to inform what's going on. Yeah. So there's a budgetary request there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Just wanted to add that when towns do this, investigate what their options are, they always have a consultant. It's often a retired superintendent, but you do need somebody in the field that knows what they're doing.
well, there have been several, I've looked at a couple towns that, I mean, the procedure for withdrawing, and I've got papers on it because I thought that might come up tonight. Yeah, I understand, but the procedure for withdrawing kind of indicates a study. And a couple of towns I've looked at, they start out appropriating like $50,000 for a study. I don't know that we need, I don't know. We're gonna talk about the budget later. We need to have a budget number to put to the town to say, are you willing to raise and appropriate X dollars for this? And I believe in hiring a consultant. Dentists are expensive, but I've given up pulling my own teeth a long time ago. We should have one.
Yep.
Can we do that in one motion, to form a committee to look at the options for the town relative to the Wayne Elementary School and add a budget item of X to the budget?
Yes.
10,000.
I don't know what consultants
What do you
cost.
think?
I think we might have got some input on from a citizen. I don't remember what the amount was, but I don't think $10,000 goes very far.
Yeah,
Oh, but if we get a retired person or something, but we haven't got a lot of time to spend at it as well.
And if we put a placeholder on the budget of 25,000, we can always change it.
Yeah, to revise it before the town meeting. Is that what you're suggesting? If we get some input on what it costs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
we're gonna talk about the budget here in a minute, maybe, if we don't all fall asleep. Okay, so we have a motion to, form a committee.
Yep.
We've got a second on that. I'll second it. Who's gonna do the charge? How are we gonna get a charge out? And then who do we advertise to? Do we know, do we put it out saying we form a committee of X members?
I
What's our
would say that
proposal?
we work on the charge before the next meeting, but
Okay,
we passed the motion.
okay,
It's a conceptual
That's fine.
committee, and
The
then
names of all these
figure out
people.
how to populate it and what the charge is.
yes, and.
Do we get everybody's names?
And I don't know who would be brave enough to join the committee whose position is, well, maybe we ought to think about this. It might be good to move the kindergartners. But I would open it up to the town to say, we're looking for input on this committee. And we'll see who's foolish enough to do that. Maybe somebody is.
So my motion is more, is bigger than just what to do with the kindergarten.
Yes, it is, yes.
Yes.
To consider options
Yes.
for the Wayne Elementary, for the
Okay.
town regarding the Wayne Elementary School.
Right.
I don't know if I got
Well-
a second on that.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Let's vote. Tom?
Tom, yes.
Hazel, yes.
Mary Ann, yes.
Lloyd, yes.
Henry, yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Now, when we get this committee and this consultant, what we need to look at is, what can be done, if anything, to keep this, to stop a process of chipping away gradually, like we talked about, because the issue on closing the school, I think, is pretty much settled. You can't close the school without the town's agreement. But if you can effectively do it another way, we've got to find out
Yeah.
if that is, if that's a no-no for the people that are trying to do it.
Sure.
Okay, all right.
So relative to coming up with a letter, a couple of us want to try and maybe with Shannon's help from some of the OWL.
I'll volunteer to help.
Some of us want to throw a draft together, because
I'll volunteer to help. I've got good time in the next couple of days. Shoot for a draft to go around to the whole committee by Friday.
That's fine. You're gonna work on it too, Hazel, right?
well,
Three
yeah,
of us will.
Yeah.
Lloyd wants to
Okay.
start it.
Cause I was serious about your input the other night. I thought it was good, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Are we ready to move on? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Ken Spalding, I just think if you're gonna form a committee to look at the future of the school, it might be good to work with the elected Wayne Elementary School Committee
Right.
Sure. That makes sense.
that has the responsibility to be a conduit between the community and the.
They can do it.
Sure.
We can make the way, I mean, actually, that, you're right, they are elected, they can do it.
Yeah, I really don't think we
Um,
are in a position to be able to do it. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
They should be represented on the committee.
Yeah.
A select board member and a town member and.
some parents, some young parents, we
Some-
need
yeah.
some young people who are ready to
Well,
really jump in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now are we ready to go on?
So we're drafting the letter. We're also going to try and draft the chart, the committee.
We're going to come back next week with our next meeting with, having thrown out some ideas for a charge.
Okay,
All right, that's what I.
okay. Next item 10C, discuss additional open RSU 38 board positions for upcoming election. There's not much to say here other than we sent it out on a blast email. Our appointment to fill that position really was only valid up to the next election, and we're required by law to put it on the next ballot. And so we've done that, and people are notified that nominating papers are available for an RSU 38 board position that goes through the end of next year. Okay, old business, approve final language for the proposed aging at home ordinance for certification for the town clerk. did we bring that with us or?
Yeah, that's.
It's in our packet.
That's in.
Okay.
Basically,
It doesn't include the changes that were discussed at the last meeting, but I can just kind of run through some of those.
Well, let's just table it and come up with one that has all the changes, so we can just look at it and say, yes, we'll sign the certification.
This has all the changes in it.
Oh,
So
okay.
last time we had sent it to the attorneys, you got back the red line copy. And then we also incorporated some final last minute changes, which
Yeah.
took out the definition of elderly, as defining that by a year. We took out, under providing food assistance, we took out the 2 residents in need. We added a T for conducting. Under paragraph 2, the last sentence, the committee shall meet at least once monthly, that got taken out. Under paragraph 3B, we added the word of. Paragraph 4, we took out the word the. And paragraph 4B, I just have to make sure. There is one line that I still need to take out, and it is under line 94. A designated portion of the costs and expenses will be covered by town funds. That was just a redundant sentence, and we were gonna change April to March.
Great, can I just for a moment, because I don't get to these meetings, because I have another.
Yes, sir.
On Tuesdays. As the chair of the Aging and Health Committee, I want to appreciate the work you've done, and this final version, absolutely, and everything I've heard from the committee and the coordinator and myself, this ordinance accurately conveys exactly what we do. And I really appreciate the level of work people have put into doing that, and I want to thank you.
Okay, thank you. What I was looking for and what we need to do next time is an ordinance with all the changes, with no numbers on the side, that we sign a certification sending it to the clerk. So we can say, yep, let's sign, because we have to we have to certify it to the clerk to go on the ballot. So all the changes that you just discussed, just incorporate them and bring us a copy next time that has them all in there. And we'll say, yeah, this is what we want, have a motion and certify it to the clerk. All right? The CEO LPI interlocal agreement. I'm gonna turn that over to you, Shannon.
So you have a copy of all the red line changes from the attorneys. That is a separate document. The final completed one is included in the packet. It automatically takes out and changes everything in here. So it makes it look like a finished copy, but if you look at this was all the attorney's recommendation.
Are you gonna send this to Reedfield and ask them if they agree with it?
Pending the select board's decision to do so.
Okay,
I believe last time you said two, but to get the updated version and corrections and any changes from the attorneys. And then pending any other comments to that or changes you'd like to see made, then I can either send it back to the attorney or we can send it over to Rita.
So this is the final,
Yes,
this is the.
showing you the red line.
I think I had a comment last time. I'm looking to see when the comment was down.
That was an email.
Yeah. And I think it was language that implied it was for more than a period of a year because it kind of committed to something outside of a year. Future increases. Did that get accounted for?
I'll have to go find your.
are you talking about number 9, Hazel, term?
What is the green line in number 9?
Something that they struck.
Okay, because it was not red. So I thought maybe it was something different.
I think it was about this.
Under exhibit F. 1 year after full certification. Subsequent increases consistent with the town of Youthfield wage adjustments.
What line?
Exhibit A.
Hmm? Got it.
Oh, there it is. It's the committing to a wage 1 year after the certification.
It's on
This is
exhibit A,
an
right?
annual agreement.
Mhm.
So we're committing to something outside of the period of the agreement.
Is that a problem if they stay on? That seems to make sense to me. If they stay on, if it's the same person.
And it may actually, so that's in the red line is now added unless they're reappointed. So I think it was actually addressed by a different action. I guess in a sec.
Well, we have to appoint the CEO each year. And if we fail to reappoint the Reedfield employee, or if Reedfield fails to reappoint that person, then the agreement terminates. That's in paragraph 1 of the agreement, like lines 20 through 25. I thought it was okay before all this red writing on it, and I think it's okay after all the red writing on it. I think now you're gonna have to send it back to Reedfield and have them get involved with their lawyers because we've bled all over this thing. But, I'm good either way.
I'm good with it going back to Rico.
I'll send it to you.
Yes, please.
Okay, so that's our instruction is send it to Reedfield and ask them to comment on our comments. So we're down to continue the budget review and warrant article discussion. Okay. Dan?
I have not prepared anything further to the budget discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see, we're going to have looking at our schedule on the 21st. So we're gonna have to do this on the 21st. That was supposed to be our joint meeting, correct? And then after that, after the 21st, we've got the first Tuesday in May. And then the third Tuesday in May is really the last regularly scheduled meeting that anything can be done to the warrant. Unless you have a special meeting after that, because it has to be posted 7 days before the town meeting. And that would be the first Tuesday in June, 7 days before, so it has to be posted on that day. So I would say as many of us as possible should attend the budget committee meeting on next Tuesday. Is there one next Tuesday?
Yeah.
To visit about these ones that we didn't talk about tonight. And then we'll see if we're in shape to have a joint meeting on the 21st, or if we've got to put it off to the first meeting in May. Does that seem fair?
Wait. You want a joint meeting on the 14th, because you want as many of us as possible to go?
No, I'm saying as many of us as possible go to the, well, yeah.
Which is basically,
We haven't been advertising them as a joint meeting. We just go as participants, but it probably wouldn't hurt to advertise it, since there may be a quorum.
Yeah.
Who's able to go? Can 3 of us go?
I can go.
Can you go, Lloyd, next Tuesday?
I think so, yeah.
All right, advertise it as a special meeting of the select board and a meeting of the budget committee for joint discussion of the budget.
Sounds good.
We'll send out a notice on it. Is that okay with you, Hazel?
Well, you have a quorum.
It's in the evening. It's 6:30 next Tuesday. I don't know what else to do about it.
Yeah.
I'll be there as well.
Okay. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. So now we're down to item 12, public comments that do not relate to the schools. Do we have any? Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you for your efforts tonight.
Okay.
Means a lot to a lot of us.
Town manager report.
So on March 24th, we received our general assistance audit, and since then we have received our letter of compliance for complying with all the requirements on administering general assistance. We have received our final reimbursement for the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and so a new balance to that account is $3,989.
So that's the tennis courts, correct? Or the courts, all right.
Correct. We'll discuss that with the upcoming budget meeting and how we want to, if the select board would like to appropriate that.
Yeah, let's think about, just for what it's worth, that money was contributed by people for the tennis court. And it's a leftover. And I think we should have a warrant article that appropriates this, that transfers this amount from reserves to the court reserve account.
Maintenance.
Yes, it's the court reserve account. It's for maintenance and for other stuff. And we'll need to get the treasurer to verify that that's the amount, so we can put a note on our warrant article saying the treasurer's verified this. And that I'm not asking that we do that now. It's part of our upcoming budget discussion, but let's give it some thought. Okay.
Okay. As you've stated already, for the nomination papers, they are available. We have not had anyone take out any for the 2 open seats for select board. There will also be the open seat for the school board. We've had one person take out papers for that. And then we have the 1-year term as well for the school board. We have 1 open seat for the budget committee as well, that nobody's taken papers out yet.
No, we have.
1 open seat for the budget committee.
No, but the papers have been taken out.
Oh.
One person took out papers for the
great.
budget committee.
Must have been while I was gone.
Yeah.
And so again, those are due this Friday.
And we've got 2 competitors so far. 2 people taking out papers for the full 3-year school board position.
Right.
And 1 person's taking out papers for the 1 year, and no select board.
Missed a lot this week.
Is it possible to say who's taking them out or?
I don't think there's any secret about it. It's, Andrew took papers out when we found out he wasn't really on until the end of the time.
Well, that's for the 1 year.
That's for the 1 year. And it's Annie, Moran, and someone else who I don't know. I just don't know him. I don't know. I can't, so yeah, for the school board.
David Twitchell took out papers again.
Yeah, but
David Twitchell, I think, he said he was.
oh, no, oh, yeah, okay, Annie is budget committee. School board is David, for the 3-year school board position is David Twitchell and the other person who I don't know.
I think it was Anthony.
I
I think it was Anthony. Just speculating. I believe it was Anthony. They just moved into town.
It's a good place to have rumors going. That's okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then I do believe the planning board is still seeking an alternate member. We have applications online and at the office, and they will have their next meeting on April 23rd at 6:30 here at the Lad Rec Center. And they'll be going over 3 public hearings: proposed amendments to the Town of Wayne solar ordinance, proposed amendment to the Town of Wayne land use ordinance for the heavy industry definition, and a proposed amendment to the land use ordinance for code enforcement officer. Just a reminder that the Lad Rec Center board and the select board is having a workshop this Thursday at 6:30 here at the Lad Rec Center. And then on Monday, the infrastructure committee meeting, will be meeting at the town office at 9:30. The comprehensive planning committee will be meeting on April 15th at 6:30 in the town office. And then, I've still got down April 21st for a joint select board meeting, but also April 14th for the budget committee. So, I'll advertise that as a joint meeting. I did receive a couple of recommendations or nominations for the Spirit of America Volunteerism Award and the annual report dedication. And I will get some messaging out there that anybody can nominate somebody from the town to receive the Spirit of America Volunteerism Award. So, and same thing for the annual report dedication. So I'll submit those out to the select board for your review as well. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Please advertise our workshop on whenever, or not our workshop, our joint meeting with the Lad Center. Yeah, that workshop.
The workshop on Thursday.
Thursday, you need
And the
to-
budget committee meeting on Tuesday.
Yeah, notice has to go out for both, notice has to go out for both of those.
I will check. I was trying to get everything advertised.
Yes, and,
I'll put it on.
and Shannon's informed me that if we have any more committees, we have to figure out how to clone her.
Yep. So, all right, thank you.
Board member reports. I have nothing.
One thing, I'm not gonna be able to make the next meeting because I have to take the train to go to Kansas City because I'm not allowed to fly. So sorry about that, but the 21st, I guess I won't be able to be here. I'll be sitting in a train. I would like to advise everyone that Pickerel Pond is about 90% open now, just a little margin of ice. And I heard 2 days ago, the first loon over there. Anybody heard the first loon?
We saw it.
And on Pickerel, Pocasset Lake is about 20% open and had 3 ducks in it, which I think are Bergansers or some sort with a little tuft at the back. And also of perhaps more relevance, we have a good intern who's going to visit us on Friday at 1 o'clock. I'd like to see if Pam would like to come to that, and anyone else, I'm not intending it to be a big meeting, but we'll have our intern there and he's gonna be a good one.
Marianne? Hazel?
I got nothing.
Tom?
Nothing.
Motion to adjourn. I'll make that one.
Second,
All in favor?
Also says yes.
Mary Ann says yes.
Yes.
Lloyd?
Henry says
You have-
yes.
You have to vote.
Oh, yes, I vote too.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.